Ohio Business Spotlight, where me and my partner Tony Miltenberger of Follow to Lead Executive Coaching, we've been given these names of these people in our community that are making a difference because we believe that how businesses occupy space in the community, they make a difference. They make a difference a lot of different ways. They share the knowledge that they have gained from, in my guest case today, some 27 years. There's a lot of things you learn when you do it that long right there. So we're really happy that you're here with us. Today's episode is sponsored by Mr. Tony Miltenberger, Follow to Lead Executive Coaching. He is the only executive coach that I use. And to be candid with you, he's the only one that I would use. So my guest today is Miss Kim Bilbrey. Thank you so much for peeling time out of what I know is an incredibly busy schedule you got, young lady.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, this is exciting right here. I'm going to tell our audience just a little bit about you to get us started. And then this is going to be a ton of fun right here. So Kim, in the information that I know about her, she shared that she's celebrating 27 years in the insurance industry. And she has a unique space in this industry because you won't find, I don't think that you'll find an insurance agent that isn't wildly in love with Kim and how she interacts with businesses right here. She started at a nationwide agency. She has tons of other experience. She's a master relationship builder, and you're going to see why when we get to talk about that right there. Kim, she created Bilbrey Marketing and with a simple mission to connect insurance professionals with trusted resources that serve customers when it matters the most. And that is a mouthful right there, when it matters the most. Today, Kim represents Greater Dayton Construction Group, All Serve Restoration, and Glass America. And she partners, her partnership with not only with those companies, the insurance companies that she partners with, it is a relationship of an integrity, accountability, and exceptional service. I could say a ton more about you, Kim. I see you in the community, not only doing what you do, but your love for working with nonprofits. You and I have double teamed Shoes for Shoeless. We both have a wild love affair with Miss Chris. She was a guest of ours, and she has a worthy cause. I've seen you there, and I love that. So we're really happy that you're here.
Wonderful. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for asking me to be.
Did I embarrass you with that? I tried to cut it back because I don't want to just.
That's perfect.
Yeah, right. So let's get right into this right here because so you're out of school. We're going to take you back in time a little bit, and you get yourself out in the workspace, and you make some relationships in the insurance industry, and you have such a unique business model because it's difficult for me to see someone else doing what you do because of the personal nature that you do it. What told you wanted to do that?
Well, actually, when I was in high school, I actually was the president of DECA.
Okay.
And back even then, I just felt like marketing and connecting people, and I love people. And I thought, this is something I think I'd really enjoy. However, when I went to college to be an accountant.
Okay.
And
because your wild personality just drove you to want to sit behind a desk and look at numbers, right?
I wanted to educate myself on how numbers work because I felt like that was my downfall. And then I got into it, and then I was like, I am totally not an accountant. I went and did some live work as like a bookkeeper, and I just felt like that wasn't my passion at all. My passion was people. But I feel like everything I did from high school, from being in DECA to that point, was actually very helpful when I started my business. Because then now my CPA actually said, you're one of very little numbers that actually I can have a education conversation with, and you know what I'm talking about.
So so you're in a unique niche in this industry because a lot of times when you see insurance, people that are in the insurance profession, they're an agent, they're a support staff, they're an adjuster, they're a salesperson or work for a large insurance company. Where did you see this need arise that you kind of had to create your own business space?
Yes.
Very unique. How did you come up with this unique approach and how did you gain so much success from it?
Great question. Great question. I think the biggest thing is two things actually happened that were very large and happened in my life that just kind of stood out. When my kids were very young, we actually had a very large water loss.
Mm,
And that was, I mean, it was over 25, 30, 35 years ago. And back in the day, insurance did not have the the follow through. They did not have the estimators, and they did not have the adjusters out there making sure like things were getting done in a proper time frame. So for a water loss, I was out of town. It was a washer loss line. We lived on a hill. People did not see the water coming out of the house because we lived at the top of a hill. It was coming in the back of it, and they feel like that washer line broke probably the first or second day we were gone, and we were gone a week. So when
okay.
we came back, because of the humidity levels, it was over Thanksgiving break. We came back to a house full of tons of mold growing up every
Mm,
wall. We already had Christmas up. We lost a lot of the kids' little pictures when they were little. We
mm,
lost a lot of items, and we were displaced for several months,
mm.
actually.
That's
And
no fun.
yeah, my kids were very little. I had two dogs, and we lived at the Residence Inn by the Dayton Mall with those kids and with the dogs over the holidays. And I
Wow.
remember just being heartbroken and devastated and thinking, oh my goodness, how do people get through this? This is tragic. And like I said, we were out for months on end. Back then, also, I feel like insurance has come so far, which is a positive thing. And they didn't have all the qualifications to kind of check. They didn't check registers to make sure mold was out. So actually, we moved back in. We had to move out again because there was so much still mold and all that in all the registers and all the lines. So unfortunately, we had to sell the house. It was just a crazy time. So when that happened, I just was like, I feel like because I've been through something so significant that if somebody ever went through that, I wanted to be able to help them because I had so much empathy and I gained a lot of knowledge. Secondly, the reason that happened was when I worked at Nationwide. Greg, just like you, I'm sure you have a lot of vendors that come in and
Mhm.
they tell you how great their companies are and they want to tell you, oh, I want to earn your business. And, you're like, there's a lot of relationships moving. And if you could consolidate some of those relationships to people that you trust, that way you didn't have this revolving door coming in of all these people. And you're like, oh, I got to call this person for this. I got to call this person for this. So, with that being said, it only made sense to kind of put together these companies that I've trusted and have the same core values as I did to be like, hey, I'm a one stop shop.
Mm. I love the idea, and in hindsight, I see it clearly. Vision's 2020 when you're looking back right there. But I don't know that I would have recognized it. I always scratched my head when I was a new agent and seeing you in the marketplace, and I thought, oh, this is kind of different what she's doing right there. How so? You said something. You didn't say the word company culture, but you talked about the things that you believe in and kind of the marching orders and values and core things that you've ingrained in your business. How was it that you were, and I'm going to give some great examples here. How was it that you were able to rally such a great team together that, by best I can tell, and now I've been working with you total 15 years, but really one on one 10 years
Mm-hmm.
ish right there. It seems like the team that you have put together, number one, Glass America is so responsive and any problems get met right away. I don't think businesses have to be perfect. It's what you do when there's a hiccup. What do you do? How quick do you respond? So they're fantastic. But you have companies like All Serve with Chip, and you have Greater Dayton Construction with Jeff, and Jeff would be beside himself if I didn't mention his name on this podcast right here. So I'll say Jeff, 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 and now you're out of it now, Jeff. But you put together a team that is willing to go out in a difficult situation, meet a family that is going through what you kind of described and some version of what you went through. Yet they know they're in competition with somebody else, and they know they may not get the business, but they still treat it the same way. That's a distinctive fingerprint right there. You had to find that. How did you connect with that and find, how many frogs did you have to kiss before decided, with the ones that I'm gonna kind of be partners with?
I've been very blessed, to be honest. Two of the companies, Glass America has been with me 26 and a half years.
Mm,
Greater Dayton's been with me for 26 years.
mm,
And Allserve has been with me probably about 16. And the only reason I had a change with them was I had another company before them, again, in mitigation, and they sold the company. And the
mm.
new owners felt like, we just didn't align at the time. But they did call me back 6 months later wanting me, and then I'd already, marketed with Allserve.
Right.
My biggest thing is I wanted to make sure that the companies I wanted to partner with had to trust each other. They had to do the right thing. That was our biggest thing. How would you want to be treated? And how do you want to go out and do the right thing even when it's hard? Because so many people, they want to run from problems or, act like it's not there or whatever. And we dive into them. That's I think our specialty. We can have hard conversations. We can go out and have a lot of empathy for people. Again, I'll go out to a lot of jobs personally and they
Mm,
love that because I can talk to them. I can spend the time with them. As like Greg, you're busy, but you go out there as well. You make the time because you're an amazing agent.
mm. Thank
Most agents, don't have that time or flexibility or choose not to or whatever their reasons are. But I can go out there and spend hours where a lot of times, adjusters can't do that. My guys can't do that. They're there to work. And I can share stories with them and give them comfort that at the end of this, from my own personal experience, they will be okay. And I have to continue to, put that confidence in them and that we will do the right thing. And I always tell people, we are not perfect.
you.
I say that all the time. But I can tell you at the end of the day, you can call me, I'll answer my phone, and we'll fix it. And I think that's the biggest thing right now where businesses are struggling. They don't have people in place to answer phone calls. They don't take the call, or they call, a week later or something like that. People know if they call me, they have my word, and my word is how I've built my company through integrity. And if
Mhm.
if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, and if I tell you I'm going to fix it, we're going to fix it. And they know that they can take that, and that they know the confidence is we will make it right because things are going to happen sometimes out of our control, and sometimes we just make mistakes. We're human.
Right. Right.
And we take responsibility and then we
Mhm.
go out and we fix it. And that we pride ourselves on.
It's huge. We had Brian Hunter on from 937
Mhm.
Payroll, and Brian takes a very unusual approach, even though he's the owner of a very busy company where there's a lot of stuff going on. He onboards every single client himself, and it's non-negotiable. And the reason he does that because he's putting his fingerprints on the deal right off the bat. He wants the best face forward. And his team does a great job, but he just does an incredible job of making that first impression right there. Charlie McMahon was on our podcast a couple weeks ago, and he talked about hiring people. And you don't think of a pastor as someone who makes a lot of hires in a church, but he said it's just so critical. You think if you take the resume approach, you can find some pretty impressive resumes out there for something that you want somebody to do. The question is, do they click with your core values? Do
Yeah.
you enjoy being around them? Do you think that your clients would enjoy being around them? And I think a lot of business owners really struggle with when it's a one man show and you're the only face they see. It's a little bit easier, but everybody kind of wants to grow, and now you've grown to where you represent three companies. There's a lot to stay in tune with to make sure that they are out there representing Bilbrey marketing. They're representing themselves, but they're representing that relationship and that accountability that you talk about. I
Yes.
think a lot of business owners struggle with, okay, I can do this. How do I get a team to do this and feel the exact same way about it? I think you've done a marvelous job there. So let me play a game with you here, because everybody talks about, oh, you business owners, guys, you guys got it made. You get flexible scheduling. You can do what you want. If your business does well, you're probably making more than what if you just worked hourly somewhere in another job or salary somewhere. And I need you to help me dispel this myth right here. So, Kim, when you opened up your shop and unlocked the door and turned on that sign and said, Kim Bilbrey Marketing right here, customers just flocked, right? I mean, you didn't have anything to do, right? They knocked down the door, right?
Oh, absolutely.
What did that look like? What did that look like? How did you have to call?
Greg, I was in a sink or swim situation. I had a very big life change when I was opening my business, and my kid's dad and I had just went through a dissolution,
Mhm.
and I was married for 13 years, and really never. I mean, I was involved with their school, which when they went to Ridgeville Christian, I was able to have flexibility. I worked at nationwide, and it was like a sink or swim. I had to do it, and I let me tell you, there was a lot of sweat, a lot of tears, a lot of oh my goodness, can I do this? And I supported myself around some business owners that actually believed in me and said, Kim, you know a lot of people. You got this. You have compassion. You have empathy. You care about people. You're going to be fine. And you just kind of have to like pray about it and think, okay, I just have to go over to God and be like, okay, here, I'm at your mercy. Here's where we're at. And so many long hours, Greg, and so many no's. No, no, no. You want how many doors I went knocking and they were like, oh, we have somebody, we're happy with them, or and just hours. And to this day, even, I will be honest, when you own it, you don't go on, when you go on vacation, you're still working. And you know this. You know this. You do the same thing. I take calls in the middle of the night because I'm an emergency service. I take calls when I'm on vacation. I take calls if I'm, wherever. I will answer. And that's the thing. I will always answer and in a timely fashion. And people know that I can be there to support them when something major happens. And that's the thing, as an owner, you don't get away. When I hear people say I go on vacation, I'm like, well, I do too, but I don't have that flexibility to be like, I'm just going to turn off my phone today and I'm going to go do this. Well, we don't have that, Greg. You and I don't have that. But I don't regret it. I don't regret it at all because it's made me who I am today. And all those things that I've been through continue to make me grow and continue to make me a better person. You learn from them. And I still thrive and I still love what I do.
Mm. I tell a lot of people, being a business owner is two things. You're always working, but you're never working, and you can qualify that by saying my hours might not be traditional nine
Correct.
to five, but just like you've taken that call in the middle of the night, I'm taking a text at 9:30, or I'm working on something related to one of my clients at 10 o'clock at night. I have some flexibility to be able to do that,
Yes.
and that's important. I have two sons and a nephew that I count as a son that are business owners right now, and they could attest to the fact, especially my youngest son Zach. He's in the insurance industry right now, and there's a lot of no's that you got to get through to
Yes.
get to the yeses. My son Logan is a mobile detailer, and he's had to knock on a lot of dealership doors and say he's trying to peddle his wares, and there's a lot of no's before you get the right yes. And
Absolutely. I've done some classes on, just, improving and getting yourself better. And Glass America has been awesome about, putting us in these wonderful classes. And the thing that what they have kind of focused on is how many no's. It's like a thing. How many no's can you get today?
mm,
And instead of changing your mindset of that, how many no's can you get? Because that will make you work harder, work longer, work smarter. And asking those people, do you have somebody else that you want to introduce me to? Asking for the referral from your networking resources.
it's huge. So what we get a lot of feedback here is, and one of the most popular questions that we get asked to ask our guest are, what's something, Kim, that you came up against in your 27 years of business, something that totally just was hiding in the bushes it jumped out at you. It might have paralyzed you. It might have made you think, oh my gosh, this is how it's going to end. The business is going to end like this right here. What is that one or two things that you bumped your head on, really hard to overcome, but now you're past it? You kind of feel like you could share something with somebody where you maybe help them avoid bumping their head.
Sure, sure. I think the biggest thing is for me, you get at least for me, I got this tunnel vision. And I kind of got stuck there, like it has to go like this way instead of like a zigzag. And you got to take the lows with the highs. And for me, when you work very hard, and I think, let me give you an example. One of my biggest one was COVID.
Mm,
When COVID happened,
mm,
a lot of us had to take pay cuts. We
mm,
weren't making near as much money. You couldn't go out and see people. You had to figure out how to keep connected to your resources
mm.
and still bring in money to have some type of revenue coming in,
Sure.
even though I had to take very large pay cuts to still be able to maintain my book of business. And I remember, I mean, I got so upset. And there was things obviously were out of our control even, and you're thinking, am I gonna have to go find something different? Am
Right.
I gonna have to go and do something because this isn't gonna work? I've worked, I've earned this business over 20 years and now this is where we're at. I'm gonna have to close up shop. And
Mm,
I remember having to dig deep and realizing, am I able to continue this job? Am I
mm,
able to, what is the future gonna hold to be able to do this? And I think for that is you just have to like really, again, surround yourself around positive people and have those conversations of like what I call them is like circle tables and just, put it all out there and say, hey, what's your thoughts? Let's kind of brainstorm some ideas. Let's try some things that are way out of the box instead of like your traditional, I know what it takes, I know what it needs to get done. Well, the rules have changed now. And they
mm,
still have continuing to today.
mm,
And so it's, I had to wrap my head around how to get out of my own way sometimes because
mm.
I was just like, okay, this is how I do it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, that's not going to work anymore. You've got to
Right.
figure out new ways. And I, like I said, brainstormed and really had to use some resources to figure that out. And I feel like we were very successful in the end of that. We had to like, okay, let's do door drops. Let's come up with, text campaigns. Let's come up with things that I had never done. And you had to
Right.
educate yourself. And then you had to
Mhm,
go dive in and learn new skill sets.
mhm,
And that was the biggest one, I think, is you sometimes have to get out of your way and not get stuck in a rut and figure out new things on how to. Second one right now is insurance world is changing a lot.
yeah.
For those that don't know, a lot of different things are happening, just like in the whole world. We've got AI coming at us. I know a lot of us are thinking, are we going to get replaced? There's just so many things happening. And with deductibles going up and limitations and things like that. So again, we have to figure out how to work with the changes and
Mhm,
accept them instead of like, I don't, I'm going to go against the system and I'm going to be upset over here. I've got to figure out how to adapt. And I think a lot of times we get caught in comfort.
mm.
We don't grow in comfort. We all know that.
Right.
In comfort situations, we don't grow. When we
Right.
get uncomfortable is
Mhm.
when we grow and when we're like, okay, I hear it. I got this, and you start figuring it out. So I think those are the two big ones right now, like that I've went through.
I'm gonna steal. Stacy tells me I steal material from everybody, but it's good material. So, but I always give credit where credit's due. One of my favorite questions is one that Tony would certainly be asking you, probably about this point of the podcast, is we want to take this vision of this version of Kim Bilberry right here, right now, exactly where you sit today, and I want to march you back to when you started this. And I want you to envision that version of Kim Bilberry. What advice is this Kim Bilberry giving that younger version when she got started? What have you learned? What advice are you giving her?
Biggest one is probably no is not a no. It's not always a no. You have to work through your no's, and you got to take them as a positive and an opportunity. Learn how to accept them, and that they're not personal.
Mm,
I think those are some big things. Another one is don't compare your success to others.
Mm.
You're on your own.
Comparison is the theft of joy.
Yes.
Comparison is the theft of joy.
Yes, yes. And I would do that. And you got to remember, be true to yourself and really stay on that path and stay focused, because a lot of times I would try to take advice from people that weren't even in my industry,
Mm.
and then I'd be like, okay, sure. And so I think, again, just surrounding myself with people that were in the industry and staying focused on that, staying true to myself. And like I said, the no's were a big thing, because I just took it so personal. And I was like, oh my goodness, but being young
Right.
and not so, your self-esteem is, not in the best place typically when I was, very young. Um, and just being like, you know what? I'm going to accept this opportunity. I'm going to just change the wording, the framing. A lot of times we get so caught up and it's not. You got to change that mindset.
It
And back.
sounds like you've developed quite a bit, and it's hard for me to imagine a version of Kim Bilbrey that didn't have the tenacity that you have today. But it sounds like that's one of the things. And really, let's face it, right here, right now, everybody's in sales. Everybody's in sales all the time. Ryan Hawk says that on his podcast all the time. And having the tenacity to continue. I read a quote the other day from General George Patton. He says, "I'm not interested in how far somebody falls. I'm interested in how high they bounce."
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I love that right there. I'm going to steal another thing right here as we wind up right here. I'm going to steal, because I am an avid Ryan Hawk fan. I'm one of the luckiest podcasters in the state of Ohio, because I was able to have Ryan on my podcast, and it was a transformational podcast. But I love the question that he ends a lot of his podcasts with. I'm going to give you a bottle of champagne, and I'm going to give it to you now, but you and I are not going to pop the top. Me, you, Stacy, and Tim, we're not going to pop the top on that bottle of champagne for about a year.
Okay.
What are we going to be celebrating in a year?
I think for one is health at our age.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be celebrating my salvation. I
Mm-hmm.
will be celebrating that I never stopped and never quit.
Mm-hmm.
I will be celebrating the long-term relationships and friendships I have grown through these 27 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be celebrating where we've taken this business.
Yeah.
And I love how you said with your kids. My kids grew up in this with me.
Yeah.
My kids had to make marketing treats. My kids still help make marketing baskets. My grandkids now come out with me sometimes. I've brought
Right.
my dog out with me before.
Mm.
I think celebrating that it's really been a family dynamic, and that the kids have really seen mom work hard
Mm.
to
I
get where
love
she's
that.
at.
I
Yeah.
love that.
And that I'm setting an example for my children that you can
Mm.
overcome obstacles in life when the chips are down, and then
Mm.
you can be where you're at today. And we have got so many blessings to celebrate.
Well, when people watch this, they're going to scratch their head and go, I had no idea, because Kim seems so polished now. She's so good at relationships, that they're going to scratch their head and go, I didn't know that there was a version of Kim that didn't always look and act exactly the ways that she looks and
Mhm.
acts right now. And that makes me happy that it's really a story. It's what we do here, just allowing a business owner to tell their story.
Mhm.
Other business owners, if they will just pay attention, there's so many things that can be learned. Abraham Lincoln said, I believe it was Abraham Lincoln said, only a fool learns from his own mistakes.
Mhm.
And that's what we really try to, in the best way possible, in the best light possible, because it's hard to talk about your failures. It's hard to talk about
Yes.
how difficult it was for you when you started. And if people can just embrace that, the version, somebody that is 27 years younger than you, is looking at an opportunity right now, wondering the same thing that you wondered when you got this started, and they can look and see that, man, she's did it. So I gave you a prep here on what Tony loves to call this the most difficult question in the podcast, but really it's the way that our podcast has kept going. We're booked out through July right now, and it's only because people on our podcast have recommended other businesses that they would love to see as guests. Someone that you would love, someone that you just think would really make a contribution to the community with the way that they've adopted their business. So can you share one or two with us?
Sure. I feel like one of them would be Jan Burden. She owns Connect Marketing Services. She, a lot of times when I'm very good about ideas, but I need somebody who's good at making that a reality. And so,
Execution, right?
yeah, so I'll call her and I'll be like, hey, this is kind of what I'm looking at. This is what I want to do. We do a lot of nonprofit, like you said, giving back in the community. I also started this Bad Moms group of middle-aged women and just going through life together. And there's like over 30 of us in this now. And so I'll tell her this is a vision I want to do for a charity or for my business or for this group, or for my children, even for ideas. And she's really good at capturing what I'm saying, listening, and then showing me ideas of like, hey, here's some thoughts of what that looks like. So I really think that she would be a great person that could help some other businesses that are trying to get things out there to their people to either show concern or a thank you or just some type of, that type of thing, getting their company out there.
Absolutely. Well, but then I'm going to, at the end of the podcast, when I send you the clip, I'll ask you for her contact information. That'll be awesome.
Okay.
I just got a message that popped up in front of me. She must think that we're almost done. Stacy knows what I'm doing all the time, everywhere. And she said, hey, make sure to tell Kim that I said hi. She just sent me that
hi, Stacy.
message. I'll tell she'll watch this right here. She watches the ones that are her favorites, and you're one of her favorites. Thank you so much for taking. I do too.
Yeah.
I got a little bit of a crush on her also. I want to thank you so much for taking time right here. You have made a difference in the community over the course of the time that you've been in business, and the 32 minutes that we have been on right here. You've made a difference. Somebody's going to watch this. Somebody's going to be encouraged. Somebody's going to learn that it's okay to take no's and to try to collect them and work through them. Somebody's going to learn the tenacious nature that brought you to where you're at, and somebody's going to learn what it means to how to build relationships and what to look for in people. You've done did far better than I ever imagined. I knew it was going to be good. I didn't know it was going to be this good, but I'm thankful for you very much. Thank you for taking time out today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity and for asking me. It was an honor.
Well, it's awesome. I'm glad we connected. All right, guys, we're bringing it to the end of another Ohio Business Spotlight. Do me a big favor. Hop on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. Follow to lead. That way you get notified when we drop these every single week. Next week, my guest is going to be Sarah Umbright. She is the sitting president of the Centerville Noon Optimists. And if you like kids, have kids, you might even enjoy it if you don't like kids or if you don't have kids. But Sarah's going to be on next week to talk about all that we do in Centerville Noon Optimists. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Everybody have a great day. Kim, you have a wonderful day, young lady.
All right, keep being awesome.